Hello. So today I wanted to pop on and have a little chat. I've got my decaf homemade coffee beverage. I wanted to pop on and just have a brief chat about one of the things that can impact our experience of intra-abdominal pressure, I.A.P. I have an introductory video to the topic here on YouTube as well, so go back and watch that if you haven't yet. And then I do have a short movement practice, kind of experimentation, where you can begin to, I kind of guide you through beginning to experience shifting intra-abdominal pressure based on how you breathe and how we move, and kind of introduce you to what that can feel like in your body, what that can look like as far as things like abdominal bracing, bulging down into your pelvic floor, your abdomen bulging out, different things like that. So today I wanted to dive into a specific topic, which is the clothing we wear and how that can have an impact on our experience of intra-abdominal pressure. So I am not a fashionista. Just going to start with that. For me, comfort has always taken priority, which I know in some situations I'm sure drove like my parents crazy when they were trying to dress me up fancy, and I was like, this isn't comfortable, I'm not going to wear it. And I'm still that way here at 45. If something is not comfortable, I'm just not going to wear it. So for me, this hasn't been as big of a transition, but I know for many that fashion is a really important way that people express themselves, who they are in the world, what their values are, what matters to them. And so I want to talk to you about how you can begin to explore whether or not your fashion choices, whether it's your shoes, your clothes, your undergarments, maybe having an impact on your intra-abdominal pressure and your core and pelvic floor function that you don't want to have. And then I can talk about ways to choose something different that hopefully you can find that within, the categories of what you're looking for as far as your fashion preferences. So let's talk shoes really quick. So our feet, I'm just gonna lift my foot up here, are made to move, right? Like our toes are made to flex and bend, and our feet are made to point and flex and rotate, our ankles, all this stuff. We have so many little bones in the kind of mid to forefoot, and that is because it needs to be mobile. Those need to move as we walk, as we stand, as we go through life. So the shoes that we wear can have a big impact on whether or not our foot is able to respond to movement, to load in the ways that it's kind of designed to. Am I here to say never wear heels? No. Am I here to say never wear stylish, pointy-toed shoes? No. But, and's probably better. And I would say minimizing the amount of time that we spend wearing shoes that take our toes from being able to spread or splay and being kind of cramped into narrower shoes. Shoes that are really rigid in the sole are going to make it so that our foot is kind of stuck like this and can't bend and flex and push off as we walk. Shoes with a high heel are going to impact our whole body up the chain, including all the way up to our head, just because, if your foot's like this, your arm can lay down, right? If your foot's like this, it's going to impact things all the way up the chain. And so I would encourage people to spend as much time as possible in shoes or barefoot, but in shoes that have a more flexible sole, that have a wide toe box, which is that front part of the shoe. The mid part of the shoe doesn't have to be wide unless that's what your foot needs. But that toe box needs to be wider so that your feet can actually spread. And that sole needs to be flexible so that as we walk, when we hit the heel and we move through the foot, we can actually push off through that big toe and allow our feet to move, allow all those little bones and muscles and tissues in there to move. And let's see, some cushion may be needed depending on the surfaces you're walking on, depending on your body. When I'm walking for long distance or longer distances on cement, I definitely prefer a more barefoot minimal type shoe, but with a little bit more cushion. Whereas if I'm walking on natural surfaces like a hiking trail, dirt, grass, I can go more barefoot, sometimes all the way barefoot for a longer period of time without it impacting, my joints, my hips. As I get older, moving into perimenopause, I do notice that, my longer walks on like the river trail, which is paved, I prefer a shoe that has a little bit more cushion. It's still super flexible. There's just a little less ground feel. So instead of being like a 3 millimeter sole, it might be, more between 6 and 12 millimeters. Just depending on your needs, depending on where you're at in your body. If you're running, you may need a little bit more cushion just to absorb the impact on your joints. Luckily, nowadays, there are so many amazing barefoot, minimal, kind of functional footwear brands that are less obviously barefoot or minimal. So you don't have to wear the ones that look like toe socks, okay? Unless you like those. Like, that's awesome, wear them. But if that's not your preference and you want something that fits more, different kind of fashion choices, there are so many more options out there nowadays. If you want specific recommendations, let me know in the comments and I can send you some amazing resources where people have really cool lists available on their websites, on their social media. There's some really great creators out there who are kind of all about the barefoot minimal footwear world. And so I would definitely want to send you that direction. So let's move on from the feet. Let's move towards kind of more like our torso and our rib cage. So this starts to get like super nuanced, but one thing you could think about is like your waistband on your clothing. Does it allow your abdomen to fully relax? So a lot of undergarments, especially the ones designed for women, but there are ones designed for men and all genders where they are trying to give us, a more like svelte, probably pronouncing that wrong, svelte. I'm just gonna laugh at myself for a minute. Profile. Personally, I don't mind if my belly appears in what I'm wearing. But there may be times, or it just may be your preference, that you have a flatter abdomen. And so for many people, they'll wear shapewear. And there's kind of varying degrees of how much shapewear can limit your abdomen's ability to just stand up here. Like a lot of it is made to give us like this really flat, sucked in appearance. But our bellies, ideally, we need to be able to move. We need to be able to soften and relax, as well as contract and lift. Ideally, we're able to bend in all the directions. Forward, backward a little, side to side, twisting, without our clothing restricting that too much. The tighter you have of clothing that you wear around your abdomen, around your belly, the more you restrict all of those ranges of motion and the ability for your abdominal wall to soften and relax, the more there is an opportunity for an intra-abdominal pressure to be redirected down into your pelvic floor, which can trigger, cause, lead to Things like urinary incontinence, pelvic floor hypertension, which is where your pelvic floor is constantly braced into like this flexed bicep, like can't go anywhere until it's just too much, and then it just collapses. Collapses isn't the right word, but you get the idea. Where it's no longer able to hold that flex, and that's where you can get things like incontinence, stress incontinence, and that could be urinary, it could be fecal. The fecal does tend to be a little more common in those with male body parts, whereas urinary incontinence, especially at younger ages, does tend to be a bit more common in people with female body parts. That can change as we age, though, for sure. It is common for older men, males, those with male body parts, to start to experience urinary incontinence as well. So our waistbands, how tight our pants and shorts and skirts and dresses are around our abdomen, with whatever you're choosing to wear, how tight our underwear, our undergarments are around our abdomen, that can definitely have an impact on the pelvic floor. And so my encouragement would be to find something within your kind of paradigm of what you're looking for as far as fashion choices goes that allows you the most adaptability and variety as possible. So if you want to wear shapewear because it's a special event, let's say it's, I don't know, a wedding, and so if you're, wearing a dress, like, and you want shapewear underneath to help you just fit the profile that you want to have and you want to, enjoy for that day, or you're wearing some fancy lingerie for a fun event. I'm not saying never wear something that compresses or limits your abdomen's ability to really fully soften, but try to spend as much time as possible allowing your abdomen to be able to fully relax, to respond fully, to adapt to varying loads and movement positions and all that fun stuff. And so the same thing goes for around our rib cage. So if you have breasts, you may want to wear a bra or like a tank top, a sports bra, like a tank top with like the cami bras. Bras in general are going to limit your rib cage's ability to expand with your breath. Now, to what degree that is going to depend on the bra. It's going to depend on how tight it is around the band. It can also have an impact on how well like your thoracic rib cage can move. And so especially like the upper part, if you're wearing a racer back style, if you're wearing the more like tank top, I forget what a standard kind of style, if you're wearing a halter, all of those things can have an impact on where your body experiences pressure, depending on how the garment is holding the load of your breasts. Especially if you're somebody with a larger chest, you may find that it's just not comfortable to go completely braless. Totally understand that. Like there have been times in my life, like when I was pregnant, where I wanted a little bit of support, but I have over the last 11, 12 years kind of weaned myself away from wearing them for the most part, unless I'm going to be in a social situation where I feel like other people would be made uncomfortable and I just don't want to deal with that. Sometimes I'm like, whatever, I'm at the grocery store, I'll just, throw like I love cooler weather because I can just throw a hoodie or a cardigan or whatever on. I wear a lot of like linen button-down shirts in the summers, and so I'll have just like a tank top with like a linen shirt so that if I get cold, not everyone knows. But in some situations, I just don't care. And your degree of comfort with that is valid and it's real and it's okay. And so I want to be here to like validate that. If you are totally fine being entirely braless, like awesome. Honestly, I'm slowly trying to get myself closer to that more and more and more. I do live in a very conservative religious area, and so I also know that in order to not have people like distracted by the fact that I'm not wearing a bra and be able to like pay attention to me as a human being and the conversation we're having and the activities that we're doing, that sometimes that means I wear a bra. I do always try to choose one that allows for a nice big inhale. And that also doesn't pull on my neck and shoulders and upper thoracic rib cage in ways that makes my body feel uncomfortable. Some people love a racerback style. It works for their body. That tends to trigger neck tension and headaches for me if I wear them for a long time, especially if they're really tight. And so it's your body, right? And so what feels good for you, what works for you may be different. Now, if you're somebody who, let's say you work in an office and there's really kind of strict rules around your clothing, or like as a nurse, like there may be rules around your footwear. So let's say you need to, for your job, for other reasons that are totally, valid and real, that you choose to need to wear more restrictive clothing. There are ways that you can later do, some release of the tissues that are impacted, whether that's, for your feet, you can do like foot massage on a ball. You can do some foot exercises for the ribs. You can do some like thoracic mobility for the abdomen. You can do some abdominal release practices. Whether that's massage and or breath or movement practice. I recommend kind of coming at it from many angles, just allowing your body to have different input and different load and different kind of release that is not available when wearing those items. Just realized I'm saying a lot. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope it hasn't been, overwhelming. I am not a movement teacher who's going to say, never wear that really cool, fashionable item. Like, that's just not who I am. I think that fashion can be such a fun way to express who we are and to get creative. It's like an art form. It's an important part of human expression. But I just would encourage you to think about being intentional with maybe the items that you buy going forward. Is there a way that I can get the same fashion, like the same look, but provide my body with a little more freedom to access a wider range of input and load, to be able to be more adaptable and reflexive with breath, with movement, with how we hold ourselves. And then are there ways that we can meet those needs for our body for different, movement nutrients after wearing clothing or footwear that, restrict our movement for a period of time. So if you have, I will say, if you have like an injury or, specific symptoms, it may be necessary for you to make changes that are, if you want to, move away from that kind of injury place, like for instance, like with plantar fasciitis, you may need to begin making choices that give you shoes with like a wider toe box and a more flexible sole so that your foot can begin to move. Transitioning to barefoot shoes can take a very long time, and the degree of how barefoot you can go is entirely led by your body. So also, if you choose to not care, okay, like you get to make that choice. So I'm not here to should on you with your choices. I'm just kind of offering this information as another aspect of how we can support our body's management of intra-abdominal pressure so that we experience fewer symptoms, more ease, more strength, and more functionality over time through every season of life. That really is a big part of my passion for what I do as a Restore Your Core movement teacher, as well as a functional nutritional therapy practitioner and human in general. So I hope this was helpful. If you have questions, please let me know. If you want to do a one-on-one movement assessment session or movement class, or join one of my group classes, whether in person or online, go check out the upcoming events page on my website. My website's juliemiddletonmovementandwellness.com. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram, as well as here on YouTube. So I would love to get to know you better. Please share if you found this helpful and you know someone who may also find it supportive. All right, send in peace, send in love. See you next time.